What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. I wanted to come on real quick. This is going to be really brief, but I wanted to make a video about 5 ways we can make church better in 2025. 5 ways that we can make church itself better in 2025, right? This has been like a stream of my consciousness for a very long time of thinking about the state of the American church. And as somebody who has volunteered and spent a large majority of my last, I want to say 8 years, which is the majority of my 20s, volunteering a part of a church, Bible studies, serving in a church, etc. I had in the past couple of years, let me silence my phone. In the past couple of years, I've been thinking or have had these thoughts about how can we make church better? How can we make church different? Right. And I'm not just talking about like, oh, rap music in worship services or cool graphic design, right? That's parts of it, but more so at its core, right? Um, and there are a few things I think are missing from the American church today and what we can add or what we can contribute to the church today. So I'm just gonna go in there in no particular order. So number one, and this is might get me canceled. People might not like it. Pastors may be upset with me, but it's the truth. We need to get rid of the sermon. We need to get rid of the sermon. A year and some change ago, I came across somebody, I forget how. Somebody was talking about it, and I came across this book. It's called To Preach or Not to Preach by The Church's Urgent Question by David C. Norrington, right? Fascinating piece of work. If you don't have it, get it. The To Preach or Not to Preach. And this is basically an argument against the sermon, right? And against how the early church did not have a sermon. The early church did not have lights, smoke screens, the smoke detectors, the lights, the cameras, the smokes, etc. And not saying not this is not an argument against those things. This is more an argument for how we do church, right? And this book talks about the needing to remove the sermon, right? It talks about the origin of the sermon, how it did not originate in the early church, how this is not how they did church, etc. And talked about how we do church now. It's a heavy dependency on your leaders. There is not much growth relative to the people that are in the audience. Maybe very few of the people who are in the audience are growing and are learning something new and actually retaining that. Very few. It goes into detail talking about like with like actual like facts and footnotes. Most of this book is bibliographies. Like if I could put it in the camera, most of this book is bibliographies of research that this dude did on the sermon or just on this topic to back this stuff up. So he's not just like blowing air. It talks about, yeah, how how the sermon really isn't as effective in terms of growth, how it causes unhealthy dependence on leaders, etc. We need to switch from um one pastor to a plurality of elders type of method, all these different things, but no more sermons, right? And this is not to say you're not speaking anymore. This is me saying turn it into a workshop, right? What if we remove the sermon and we turn church into a workshop where you still have a plurality of elders, you still have church governance, you still have all those things. But what if instead of a sermon, which is purely oratorical, if that's even a word, purely oratory, purely just one man coming up and everybody looking, sitting in the seats for 45 minutes, an hour, and watching some man speak for an hour and being quiet, some people taking notes, some people just listening. What if we switch into a workshop, right? I was a part of a Bible study movement like 2016 through 2018. It was called Unplugged. And in Unplugged, one of the things that was revolutionary that the leader, his name is Joshua Ezzy, did was when we met at some multi-purpose type of church that had a multi-purpose type of facility in the back, a room in the back. There were tables. He gave out worksheets. We had to sit across from each other, and we were listening in for keywords to fill in the blank, right? What if church looked like a big room with tables and chairs and people being able to sit across from each other and interact with a worksheet, interact with questions, interact with role playing, interact with question and answering? Like, what if church looked like one big workshop instead of just one big service? Right? That's point number one. Like, what if you give homework and you give quizzes? And then the next Sunday you quiz the people on what they learned from the last Sunday? No, you're not taking attendance or keeping grades, but you're tracking retention. And this leads me to my next point: how to make the church better. I think there needs to be a shift to go from growth into retention. So instead of growth, we start focusing on retention, right? Not retention in terms of retaining the people, and not saying we don't focus on growth in terms of trying to make the church grow. What I mean is the church nowadays is set up where everybody's talking about 7x your growth. Like, grow your church, implement these systems, grow your church, implement the systems. But what if you prioritized people's ability to retain the information that you're giving, right? Which means you might have to do away with a 4-week sermon series. Make it 8, make it 12, make it 6 months. You might have to start going verse by verse. You might have to rip up those seats and put tables and chairs and make people actually want to work. That would surely drive attendance down, because most people are not coming to church to work their brain. They're coming to church to hear a message and be inspired and go home. And praise God for inspiring, praise God for encouragement, praise God for you being able to be inspired when you come to church. But what if we did away with all that and we dug up them auditorium chairs and we start putting tables and chairs and microphones? You got the budget, put microphones around them so they can be able to ask questions and everybody could hear it. What if we created workshops instead of having sermon series? We created workshops around a particular thing, right? And this leads me to my next point, right? Stop saving the juicier topics for Wednesday night, right? One thing we always hear is common speak within church is like, oh, we can't dig into this on a Sunday morning. Why not? What if we start talking about the juicier things on Sunday, right? But Sunday's a performance. Sunday's the experience, right? Christmas experience, Easter experience. Everybody comes to church once a year for Easter, once a year for Christmas. What if we got on people that came there? They came there for a celebration, and they came there to be entertained. What if you sat them all there and say, "Here's some worksheets. Ask me some questions. Fill in these blanks. We're going through 10 scriptures. We're going to break this down. We're not going to be in this series for 4 weeks anymore. We're going to be in this series for 8 to 12 weeks, right?" Just thought, right? But what if we stop saving the juicier topics for Wednesday night? What if the church was not afraid? I know there's some churches aren't. It's not every church. But what if the church wasn't afraid to get into the heavy theological stuff on a Sunday morning, right? What if we said, to heck with everybody's appetite, to heck with everybody's attention span, to heck with the gimmicks and the entertainment and it being a service, to heck with all of that. what if we prioritized people's retention, right? What if we prioritized people's retention, their ability to retain what they are being taught, and so that it benefits them in their Christian life, right? Um, and the last point that I have, and I believe I've given five, but the last point that I have is you want to actually equip the saints for the work of the ministry, right? Ephesians chapter 4, around 11 verse talks about the gifts that God has given to the church, right? And he says that in the bottom half of that verse, going into the next verse, he says to equip the saints for the work of the ministry, right? So the fivefold, as we call it, ministry gifts purpose is to equip the saints for the work of the ministry. Are we mobilizing the individuals that come into our church to go out and do the ministry? Or are we just feeding them messages to inspire them, and they leave and they forget about it come Tuesday, come Wednesday, just to need to be primed up again come Sunday, and you're doing it all over again, right? What if we created a movement where we mobilized, or we started mobilizing these individuals, right? This comes from, I was doing a sermon review, and the guy was commenting on about how the Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses, they be witnessing and they be clean cut and they know their word and all this other stuff, and how come the Christians don't? How come we don't see the Christians doing that? And I made the comment in the sermon review about how they don't do that because we don't know. We don't do that because we don't know our word well enough, right? Some people do, some people don't, but we're not mobilizing our people. Not saying that everybody needs to be an evangelist or be in an evangelistic position, but what if we started mobilizing our people? What if the whole purpose of coming to church is to mobilize you into wherever God has called you, whatever sector God has called you? What if the purpose was to build you up, to send you out, and we keep losing people because we're sending you out? We keep losing people because after a while you get sent out, and then more people come in to get sent out, right? You come here, you want to come here, you gonna get educated, you might be there for a couple of years, and you gonna end up mobilizing to doing something, creating something, whatever, and you're mobilizing you to do the work of the ministry. What if we started mobilizing, prioritizing mobilization, right? So these are just some of the things that I think, if we implemented them, right? Number one, no more sermons. Switch to a workshop method. Number two, you want to give homework. You want to give quizzes. You want to quiz them on what they learned the previous Sunday. Number three, you want to focus on retention instead of growth, right? Number four, you want to stop saving the juicier topics for Wednesday night, right? Or for some conference. What if you started prioritizing the juicier things on a Sunday morning to increase their appetite? What if we stopped trying to spare these people because we want to get their money and we want them to be entertained, and we want to take it slow, continue to take it slow? But what if you actually started talking about the deeper things of God? We got rid of this topical system. And when I say topical, I'm not saying topical could mean just topics. I'm talking about these cookie cutter, these basic surface layer sermons where most of America, at least most of the American big churches, are in a sermon calendar that they all follow, that they all talk about relationships come February, that they all talk about the birth of Jesus come December, that they all do a summer at the movies, or church at the movies during the summer when the pastor's on sabbatical, that they all do a thing on finances at least twice a year in February, and then in or in November and or December, and in like March, right? That they all do talking about Easter during Easter. Not saying you shouldn't, but that most of these churches, they're following a sermon calendar, right? What if we stop following the sermon calendar and we just started trying to teach these people the deep things of God, right? What world could we create that would be better for the church, right? Imagine, right? We can't even fathom, um, imagine Elevation Church, Stephen Furtick saying, I'm not going to preach to you like I normally preach to you this Sunday. We've stripped out all the chairs. We got tables in place, and we're going to go verse by verse through Colossians, we're going to go verse by verse through Colossians, and then once we finish Colossians, we are going to do a series where we are going to touch on one world religion or one cult a year, and we start going through what they call the kingdom of the coast, and start talking about Jehovah's Witnesses, start talking about Muslims, start talking about or Islam, start talking about Church of Latter-day Saints. What if we did that, right? Man, Elevation would flip the whole world upside down if Elevation took a page out of that book. Out of these 5 plays, Elevation will flip the world upside down. Transformation Church will flip the world upside down. If Mike Ty got up there one Sunday and decided to say, we're not going to do sermon series right now. We're going to do a 6-month crash course on the Trinity or something, or 3-month crash course talking about the Trinity. We got homework for you because they got the people, these churches have the bread. They got the resources to create the systems to do this type of stuff, right? What if we did that, right? What if it wasn't just you sit there and listen to a message for 45 minutes and get inspired for a week and do that, right? And I'm not talking down on churches who are staying in the regular format or who even want to continue in the regular format. All I'm advocating for is that there needs to be a change. And these are 5 specific ways, and there are more that I think the church would greatly benefit if we saw a shift in our focus away from growth and from 45-minute talks to retention, right? Where we don't care if we just have 25 people, because we're going to make sure these 25 people are the smartest Christians y'all ever met, right? We're not focused on, we're going to do the reels, we'll do the TikTok, we'll do the welcome, we'll do the growth track, we'll do the new members class, we'll do all those things. But what if we just focus on trying to make these 25 people smart as can be? And okay, cool, 25 more people want to come in, we'll focus on making these 50 people the smartest Christians that you'll ever see, the most knowledgeable, loving Christians you'll ever see. Oh, 25 more people come in, well, the mission does not change. What if that happened, right? So these are all thoughts. Let me know down in the comments below, what are your thoughts relative to these 5 things? Do you think that they would benefit? Did me saying no more sermon freak you out? Can you imagine a world without a sermon? Let me know down in the comments below. As always, drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and I'll check back in with you guys on the next video. Peace.